We start with the question. Zen Master Jokum, I received this question. When answering a Kongan question during interview, can we or should we recount personal experiences that seem to answer the teacher's question? What happens if the student is unable to properly communicate the relevance of experience for answering Kongan question? Could you please answer that question?
If you want to impress somebody and you're meeting them for the first time on a date, so you buy flowers and you ring the doorbell and your date opens the door and you stick the flowers out and your date says, "Oh, what beautiful flowers." And you say, "I got up this morning and I couldn't decide which shoes to wear, and I finally decided to get my sneakers. And then I went downtown and I saw one flower shop and there were some nice flowers, but they were a little expensive. So I went to the other flower shop and they didn't have any I liked. So I went back to the first flower shop and I couldn't decide on white, pink, or yellow. So I got all of them. And then I dropped them, so I had to put them back together and wrap them up in paper. And then I couldn't get a taxi, so I had to walk and I'm a little bit out of breath. So I got you these flowers." That's not what your date wants to hear. Probably something like, "I thought you'd like these." So when a teacher presents a question, the point of that kind of exchange is what can you bring to life immediately that connects the two of you? And typically, it's not a long explanation. Yeah, Buddha picked up a flower, Mahakashyapa smiled, that was it. Buddha gave a long speech afterwards, of course, and we have a Kongan about rather than that speech, maybe he could have done something else. But just that moment, this flower up in the air, Mahakashyapa sees something. So I would encourage you not to bring long explanations about your life to the Kongan. If you have a question about your life, then certainly bring that to the teacher. But if the teacher says, "Why is the sky blue?" Don't talk about where you bought your shoes.
Okay, thank you very much for that beautiful response. A question for Arne Chidopopsanin. When you face a blockage in Kongan, what do you do to investigate it? What are the steps you take?
First, feel comfortable with it. You know, blockage sounds like not so good or some energy blockage you feel, is not so alive, but that is being alive. Just become one with the blockage, just accept it, embrace it. So it's really interesting what we do, which is not meant to do. So the Kongan is just a live situation, just that, as Zen Master Jokon said, you know, you just enter the situation and what comes to your mind, you just expose it. Don't check it. That's not important. So if you're blocked, no problem. You just blocked. That's truth also. So we try to fight with that. That's just our nature. Yeah, we don't like it, so we want to change it. We have to make something with it. Most important is drop that. Drop this idea you have to make something. So even when I talk about it as acupuncture and therapy and losing blockages or taking away blockages, be careful. Again, something is created in your mind. But what we are actually looking for is this before thinking experience. So before all this appears, it's beyond blockage or freedom. It's just truth, functioning, moment to moment to moment. Don't be afraid of anything. It's easy to be said, but that's what we are referring to in our practice, make the experience. Also make this experience of get stuck and enjoy that. To get stuck is not the problem. Use this getting stuck. Use it correctly. Then it becomes your strength.
One of the participants of this morning would like to know if there is not a risk that once that you pass a Kongan, then you get some maybe some insight or some new understanding, and then this new understanding could become a new illusion. So what is your position on this?
Well, I think that's just checking. I think whoever asked that question is just checking. And, we talk about that, don't check. What you're doing is saying, well, what if this happens? Or what if that happens? But the whole point is, what is happening? If you're doing a koan practice, you passed a koan and you got some kind of insight, and then you start to check like something, go back to your insight. If you truly passed that koan, it helped you. You touched something. It was a tremendous help. So you've got to start noticing your checking mind. Like, well, I wonder if this happens, or wonder if he does this or she does that. That's just thinking. What's the point of the koan? What was it? Like, hanging from a branch by your teeth is a very famous koan. When students pass that koan, they are very, very happy. It's huge, the teaching. I can't give it away, but it's a huge teaching. But sometimes we forget that teaching. All of us do. Even, it happens. You start to lose the vitality of what you got from that koan. So again, don't check, oh, I'm losing my vitality. Oh, no, just, what is this? So your ticket out of all of this confusion, all this checking is, what is this? Right now, in this moment. It's so simple. Then hosting guests, so you have to have faith in that. Have faith in that.
Thank you very much. I have a question now for Zen Master Jokum. So sometimes practice is really helping us. We see that we get some kind of tools, and we have different we have different confidence to take on with some situations in our life, and then something happens, and then it feels that everything breaks down. So then it seems that even practice cannot help us anymore, and so then what can you do?
Thank you for describing the human condition. I could say more, but that would make me a thief. Because one fundamental aspect of practice is to understand the appearance and disappearance of phenomenon and how we relate to those circumstances. So you just did us all a favor by describing human karma. And if I say more, I dishonor your teaching, and I won't do that.
Okay. Thank you. Now I have a question for Arne Chidapopsanim. The question is, why do Zen teachers eat every day? That's very everyday life, right?
So yeah, if I wouldn't eat every day, then would look like that.
Okay, that's also a very clear answer. So here, a question that maybe I can give just some information about. How does one find a teacher to begin koan practice with if you don't have a teacher locally? So there I invite this person to have a look at the website quantumzen.org. And there you can see that there is an online community of people who are in that situation and who are practicing Kongan practice online. Okay, Zen Master Sung Hyang, Here is a question that is in style of Kongan. Before thinking is don't know minds. But before don't know minds is what?
Blue sky, green grass.
Okay, thank you. Zen Master Jokum, when terrible matters happen in our daily life.
I'm sorry, terrible
matters.
Huh.
Happen in our daily life. How can I use Kongan to face it?
You can't. You could only use Kongans to avoid it. Arni Popsanim was saying before, the meaning of Kongan is like taking a seal and impressing it into wax. And then you separate, if you have two, one of the descriptions of Kongans is if the government office in China makes a proclamation and then they make a copy. So you put the edges of the paper together, drop some hot wax on top of it, and impress a seal, and then you separate it. And you send the copy to the provinces. And if there's ever a question about whether it's a genuine copy, you bring it back to the government center and you see, do the seals match up? And if they match up, then yes, that's the genuine copy of the original. So the point is, how do those 2 points touch? So when some terrible event happens, it's a little bit like the Kongan, when cold comes, cold kills. When hot comes, heat kills. Either something happened that I couldn't anticipate and I'm not prepared, so I feel lost. That's one kind of terrible event. And the other kind of terrible event is that something happened that's causing harm. And I want to do something to engage the harm so that it becomes nurturing. Some Kongans are about that, but at the moment of the event, all you have to bring is what your whole life at that moment. And that's part of what the interview process is with Kongans is, as Zen Master Songhyang said, you bring your entire life to the room before the teacher at that moment, and host and guest disappear. If host and guest disappear, then you and the shape of the space you're in share that shape and you shape each other. So if you allow the terrible event to shape your consciousness so that you can see what's going on. If you don't see what's going on, you can't respond. If you do see what's going on, then you have something to offer. So from my point of view, it's a little bit like that.
Arne Popsanim, somebody asks, I am stuck with a koan for more than 2 years and starting to get discouraged. Is there a way to get over this checking?
Yeah, stop. No, it's very good. You know, this question is very good. No, we've talked about it already. Jogum Zen Master talked about it. It's part of the Kongan practice to get stuck and to work with the stuckness. So Zen Master Songyang said, you have to have trust. So one thing is clear, you have it. You all have it. Nobody is missing anything. So if you're working on a Kongan for 2 years, that's pretty good. I have some Kongans I'm working for more than 2 years, still not finished. But that's the precious part of Kongan practice. So the moment you pass a Kongan, it's dead, it's gone. But you're never finished. This work is never finished. So this Kongan keeps you alive. And if you're stuck in the Kongan, really look at that like with curiosity. Don't stop investigating. What is that? You know, what is this about? Yeah. And what is really important is always try to return to this before thinking. Don't get stuck in the Kongan story. Don't get stuck in your experiences or in your attainments or not attainments. Don't get stuck in any of your ideas about it. Just look at it and try to reconnect with your before thinking mind. Then your intuition will function. Some idea might appear. Just try. Never give up trying. That's what this practice is about. Not only Kongan practice, our whole life is based on that. Don't give up. Try, try, try. Don't give up. And keep direction. Know why you are practicing. Know why you put all the effort and your energy into it. Know why you eat every day. That's really important. Please don't give up.
Thank you. Zen Master Sun Yang, here's a question for you. Our practice is great compassion. Why there are parables of Zen masters being mean to students, such as slamming the door in their face? What is the value in that attitude?
The teacher knew what the value was. The teacher knew what that student needed. So it depends on what the student needs. So the teacher has to be practicing. You think the teacher stops asking, what is this? Never. You think the teacher stops trying? Never. So the teacher perceived that student. He was trying to see, can he take this? Can he enter this temple? Is it possible? And so he gave that teacher, that student, that teacher. Other teachers, there's a wonderful koan about a student asks the Zen master, what is enlightenment? And the Zen master simply called his name, like Baek Chong. And the student said, what? And the Zen master said, it's as if I gave you the finest glass of wine and you say you haven't had a drop. So that's very subtle teaching. Many of us understand that. He called, the student answered. There it is. There is the enlightenment right there. I call you, you answer. Finished. But the student didn't understand. You know, he walks away, maybe scratching his head. But the teacher already gave him enlightenment. So that was subtle teaching. Slamming the door is not so subtle, but they're both just what that student needed, if the teacher's clear. So make sure you have a clear teacher. Don't settle for anything less than a clear teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That's interesting. It happens that in Belgium we are just working on an ethical charter. And so we are defining what is emotional abuse and power abuse. And so there we had discussions with the persons of the ethical committee. And they are from Tibetan tradition, Zen tradition, and others. And they all stress this element, as you say, that in Dharma, Dharma teaching is part of Dharma teaching to sometimes, be very, very direct in this teaching. But that is indeed important to use wisdom and be very careful about it. So thank you very much. The Master Jokum, how if commands are just making our anxiety worse? How can you work on the koan when it's the source of the problem?
What's the source of the problem? So if you're so consumed with anxiety that a question brings up your anxiety even more and you can't tolerate it, then depending on you and your relationship with the teacher, that could go in a few directions. One is, and it would depend on who the two of you are to each other. One possibility is the teacher says, you know what, take a break from kongans for a while. They're too stressful. Bow, or do a lot of chanting, or breathing, or go take a nap. So maybe if a student's constitution is such that the practice makes their inner disturbance greater and they can't tolerate it, then it's important to have the skillful means to find something to quiet the mind first. If, as a student, they have sufficient grounding, then the practice becomes, how do you live in the middle of this disturbance? And that itself is the question. So there are many, many stories of people who became teachers who lived in the middle of disturbance for a long time. And I would suggest that aspect is something like this. If you step on a thorn, then the pain in your foot tells your eyes and your fingers what to do. And it points to something very vital, because if you don't know where the thorn is, you can't address it. And there's an aspect to disturbance that's like that. If you look at where the disturbance is pointing, then maybe you see something valuable. And if you're able to tolerate disturbance, at some point, there's no more subject of the disturbance. There's just disturbance. And whether that disturbance is anger or fear or grief, usually our emotions have an object, but we want to understand what is human life. Yeah, that what is this? What is a human being? And then some aspect of being human appears in our practice, and we don't want that. But it's the not wanting that brings about the suffering. So if anger, if the about disappears, anger about this person, anxiety about my inadequacies, and all we have is anxiety, that's pure. And then we see something about, oh, this is a human capacity, anxiety. And at that point is the point where digestion is the strongest. And because everything changes, if you can do that, then something transforms. But it takes a certain degree of persistence and patience and stability and courage to do that.
Okay, thank you. Arne Popsanin, you were speaking of unprogramming our minds to get rid of some habits. Would it be possible for you to share some aspects of your life where this was difficult for you, or how you did it, how you did take care of it?
Yeah, sure. So it's a little bit embarrassing, but the part of my life where I can perceive my habits being active mostly is relationship. So the closest person in my life is my wife. And so you understand family life or relationship life, all your karma appears, all. You cannot hide it. It will all come up. Even if you like it or not. And you know, we all try to be most positive, especially with our spouse and partners and families. But still, sometimes karma appears and brings action that I myself don't like. So in the relationship, I definitely see ongoing field of learning. And what I can see is in the beginning of the relationship, when I met my wife, I fell in love and I was very positive and very nice, gentle man. And after a while, when this, everyday life comes back, also old habits come back. And suddenly I find myself saying something to my wife which didn't sound so lovely anymore, just because I felt defensive or in a weak position. I felt she doesn't like me, or she was angry or mad about me. So then I could look at my patterns. And my typical pattern was just go away, disrupt the contact and my wife is very awake with that. So she said, hey, you cannot leave me like that. So then slowly understand, well, that's something you learned at your family, but this is not really helping at all. if you want a good relationship, you really have to take all your courage, all your strength to overcome your feelings of being a bad person, of sadness, depression, any negative feelings. You really have to take all courage to reconnect. And in this aspect, the practice has helped me a lot. And what I can see now, still patterns can be activated, but the time in between to come back and to correct a mistake has become much, much shorter. So I can take the responsibility for my habits, or for my karma. I can see it closer, I can perceive it better, and I can react much, much better. And I'm talking about 20 years of relationship now. So that's for me a classical subject where I can see it's the closest I have in my everyday life. And I can see it needs continuous effort and really strong, a strong vow to really keep together and help each other and be kind with each other. And this is also inspiring me for anything else. So the Dharma is helping me in the relationship, but also in all of my aspects of life. So yeah, some habits not so easy to change, but we have to try with all our effort.
Thank you. Zen Master Sung-Hyang, there is here a question related to the story you told about the birds. So at this moment, in the situation of Corona, many professionals in the healthcare industry, they are confronted to the situation. So many people are trying to help as much as they can. And then also very often we see that there is exhaustion or burnouts. Could you give some advice about that?
I don't really believe in the idea of burnout. If you have a job, you have a vocation, then that has to be in your gut. Why? It doesn't just have to be in medicine, but you walk into an office or you walk into a hospital, in your center, in the very being of you studied, you got a degree, you had some kind of direction and vow to help other people, to be in that situation. So nothing is easy. There's degrees of discomfort, there's degrees of stress, but why are you walking in there? What's the point? Now, if you're not being given clean gowns or clean masks, or it's not a safe situation, or if you're asked to work more hours than you're physically capable of doing, then of course you find a balance. You have to, what we call, believe in yourself. We say there's no self, but there's the true self. There's the true host. That host knows when the string is being pulled too tight. It's going to say, take it easy, do something. So that's just like a koan. You don't want it too tight, it's going to snap. But you shouldn't settle for it being too loose. So if you're a doctor or a nurse and you're surrounded by the COVID virus, watch out, be careful. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of the patients. But it's not burnout, it's a koan. So I don't like burnout. I like, just like there's a wonderful image of if you play the guitar, the musical instrument, the guitar, if you tighten the string too tight, it will snap. If it's loose, then it's not the key. You're not getting the correct note. You've got to tune it. So always, always be tuning your situation. It doesn't take a lot of effort, because you begin to listen to the host. The host is telling you, back off. And then you listen to that and you find a way to not compromise your position and be able to continue your job. And it happens on all kinds of degrees. Same with child rearing. You're trying to raise a child. The child's doing this or that. There's no easy answer to how to raise a child. But as the host, as the mother, as the father, what is this? How do you, first of all, love the situation, know your parental love, and then how do you use it? So it's all koan practice, all of this.
Thank you very much. So we have reached the end of this session. There are many more questions that were asked. I'm sorry I had to make a choice of questions, and we were not able to take them all. But we really appreciate the questions you asked us and your interest in this matter. I'm sure that because we are all of this path of trying to help these worlds, this session has something to say to all of us. So I thank, first of all, our speakers, but also the organizing team. I was in touch with you, and really the team is really wonderful. Thank you for all your support and all the work you are doing. And so now I would like to hand over to Zen Master Sung Hyang to lead us with the 4 great vows.
All right, so here are the 4 vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. Delusions are endless. We vow to cut through them all. The teachings are infinite. We vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable. We vow to attain it.